Hey everybody, and welcome inside Wylie Stadium here in Wylie, Texas. This is going to be the site of the bi-district championship between the Wylie Lady Pirates and your Rockwall Heath Lady Hawks. Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Curtis, and it's just going to be me on the mic tonight as we are spread out for 3 games tonight. Of course, the Heath Hawks are over at Wilkerson Sanders. They are taking on Wylie as well at 7 o'clock. You can watch that game here on the network. And of course, Rockwall High School, the boys team, will be taking on Saxe, and that game is going to be over at Homer Johnson Stadium. And of course, that game is going to be at 7 o'clock, and it'll also be right here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. Lisa Trammell's here, going to be running the camera tonight. Appreciate the help from her tonight, as we are just about to have these starting lineups here. Quick look at what has happened so far this season for both Heath and Wylie. Of course, Wylie coming in at 19-6 overall. They placed third in that old Garland ISD district. Of course, it is a massive district. They were able to place third. Of course, Saxe coming in as an undefeated team in that district. Of course, that's District 9 over in 6A. And of course, the Lady Hawks. They were hot all year long, 18-2-2. Of course, they had a massive winning streak to start the season. Their only 2 falls in district play this year were to the eventual district champs, the Forney Lady Jackrabbits. Of course, they ended up winning district. So Rockwall Heath will be the 2 seed going in for the bigger schools here, which means they get the Wylie Lady Pirates. Weather tonight couldn't be any better. It's hard to believe it was freezing cold 4 or 5 days ago. It is sunny and 87 degrees. Winds 8 miles an hour. We could have some gusts up to 17 miles an hour. That could play a little bit of part in this game here this afternoon. Rather, should I say this evening. Of course, the wind is blowing from the north. So I'm not a math major and engineering major, but you kind of want to shoot with the wind, it would feel like. And I believe that is what head coach, we just call him Piper. That's what Piper wants to do. Did not see what the coin toss eventually held. Of course, this is Coach Piper's second year under the reins of these Lady Hawks. Of course, last year making the playoffs, falling just short. Of course, this team has not won a playoff game since 2023. And that is their only bi-district championship since. Of course, they are looking to break that streak. They are favored to go on a nice run here in 2026. Of course, their last playoff win did come back in 2023 against these Wylie Lady Pirates, 1-0. They did fall to Mansfield in the area championship, 1-0 in that season. Of course, if you do anything as far as following Rockwall ISD girls soccer, of course, the Lady Jackets had a nice historic run over the last several seasons. Of course, they ran into Wylie's big rival, Wylie East, almost every year, had some great battles. And so it looks like now the Lady Hawks and Lady Pirates will begin their quest and potentially have some big-time battles here on the pitch. Of course, the starting lineups are being introduced right now. I do apologize for the Wylie fans tuning in. We did not get a roster. We asked. We didn't get one, so we're going to do what we can and just wing it for Wylie. But we do have the hometown girls, of course, here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. Starting in goal, Sarah Webb, the freshman. Do apologize, my phone is ringing right now. On defense, it's Charlotte Smith, Miss Laird, Addison Dewey, Jaden Gensel. Of course, that is led by 3 seniors, followed by a sophomore. Starting at midfield, Bree Williamson, Elena Andrare, and Emily Daffrin, who is also a freshman. And playing forward tonight, Bradley Shaw, Avery Enoch, and Pearl DeSur. Chris DeSur is a freshman as well. You're going to notice a lot. This is the first time tuning in to anything with the Lady Hawks. This is a very, very young team. So this is not just a one-hit wonder for the Lady Hawks. This is going to be the next several years of dominant performance here by the Lady Hawks, and they're going to look to go on their runs here over the next few years, of course, led by a lot of freshmen, which is not so uncommon in soccer, but it's pretty uncommon. So we're excited to see how this goes for this team. Of course, it does have a nice mixture of seniors and underclassmen. But it's pretty cool to see a bunch of freshmen getting their first taste here of playoff soccer here in the great state of Texas. Of course, there are some injuries here tonight. Mumphrey will not be playing, Perez will not be playing, and Whitney on the bench will not be playing. Of course, Mumphrey is the leader of this team. She leads the team in goals, so that's going to be a big miss here for the Lady Hawks, but they seem to have enough firepower to keep up here, at least in the Bi-District Championship. Hopefully we see the rest of those girls here coming up later on down the road. Once again, thanks for joining us. I'm going to put another graphic up there so you can see all your starters for the Lady Hawks soccer team. Of course, exciting times at Heath High School. This is playoff soccer. It is win or go home. There are no series here. It is just a simple one-game playoff. And all roads lead to Georgetown here over Easter weekend when the state championships. And a state champion will be crowned. Of course, Rockwell ISD has been to state in soccer before. The Lady Hawks have never been. Of course, their rival Rockwell has been twice. Of course, making it to the state final and, of course, making it to the state semifinals. So the Lady Hawks now are going to be looking to do some damage and go on a run of their own here over the next several years. Of course, it all starts here tonight in Wylie as they take on the Wylie Lady Pirates. We're going to pause for the national anthem. And there you go. The national anthem of the United States of America here in Wylie, Texas, as the Bi-District Championship is just about to get going. Of course, the Lady Hawks are ranked number 22 overall here in the state of Texas. They are number 14 in Division I. And in the DFW area, they are ranked anywhere from 13th to 5th. There's a bunch of polls out there. Polls don't really mean much, of course, here in Texas. No one really looks at polls these days. Of course, if you're watching us here on our YouTube, on the network, let us know where you're watching from. We'll give you a shout out and everything else. Of course, shout out to Joshua watching in saying, "Let's go Hawks." And, of course, another one that says, "Let's go Hawks." So thanks for everybody to tuning in. Of course, there are two other games going on here on the network. The Rockwall Yellow Jackets are taking on Saxe at the top of the hour. And the Hawks are back in the playoffs. And they are taking on Wylie over at Wilkerson Sanders Memorial Stadium. Welcome in, Chris Curtis here for the Bi-District Championship. Of course, Lisa Trammell here on the camera. We are outside here at Wylie Stadium. Unfortunately, the freeze that we had a couple weeks ago ended up causing some major flooding in the press box. So the elevator does not work here. So we could have gone upstairs. We had to climb a massive amount of steps. And so we decided, let's stay here. Of course, they do have the fans separated. The home fans are on the home side. Of course, that is Wylie High School. And then the Heath fans, there's a lot of them here. And they are going to be ready to make some noise here for the Lady Hawks. Of course, it is spring break at Rockwall ISD, so great to see everybody out here. Of course, these ladies got a little bit of a break. They have not played a match here since Friday. They did get a little break. They had a non-district game on Friday. So they've had about a week off. Of course, they got to probably rest and relax just for a little bit. But here we are, and also we are going to focus here on the freshman. She has made a big-time name for herself. Sarah Webb, 10 goals against this season. That is quite impressive for her. 15 shutouts and 17 wins for Miss Webb. She is a rising star for the Lady Hawks, and we look forward to watching her career blossom here over the next 3.5 years. Of course, a lot of these girls, we're going to be covering them for a long time. As we mentioned, it is a freshman-led team for the most part. There are dabbles of seniors, dabbles of juniors, dabbles of sophomores, but it is a young team. So, of course, Coach Piper is going to be excited to have this team going on here for the next couple years. Of course, as we mentioned, Piper's second year at the reins of the Lady Hawks. He's built one heck of a program here, and they are ready to rock and roll as we are just about to get underway here from Wylie ISD Stadium. Get the clock up for you, get the scoreboard up for you. Of course, Lady Hawks are going to be going into the shade here, so they will get the wind here in the second half. And away we go. And I do apologize, we are looking straight into the sun here, so it is going to be a little bit of a challenge to see numbers. The Lady Hawks are wearing their white kits with black numbers, black shorts with red trim, and a lot of them have red glitter in their hair, so that will help us identify the Lady Hawks out there with the red glitter. Of course, most of these teams have some sort of playoff tradition once the playoffs start. Boys like to dye their hair blonde sometimes. Of course, we got a corner kick coming up here for the Lady Hawks. Again, I am 70 yards down the field here, so it's hard to see. But the Lady Hawks caused some chaos right in front of the net, and it goes out. So a nice first minute here for the Lady Hawks. Of course, I do not have a roster for the Wylie Lady Pirates. We did try. So I do apologize to the Wylie fans tuning in. We are going to do our best here to do what we can. Of course, looking straight into the sun right behind the scoreboard here. It is about 15 minutes from setting here at Wylie Stadium, so it should be a lot easier to see. Lady Hawks controlling here at midfield. Of course, it's going to be a little more challenging to call a soccer game by myself. Of course, I have been joined by Reggie Webb over the last several games. So if you want to hear his beautiful voice, he is over at the Rockwall game tonight with Jameson. And of course, Shane Rodden has the call on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network for the Rockwall Heath Hawks. So sit back, enjoy, and we are going to try to bring you some incredible commentary here for the Lady Hawks. Of course, this is the bi-district championship. Winner moves on to the area round. The loser season comes to an abrupt end on the first day of spring here. Of course, when springtime comes around, the weather does warm up. Beautiful day here is 87 at first kick. Of course, it will get a little cooler once that sun heads below the apartments right behind the scoreboard here. Throw in by the Lady Hawks. Of course, the Wylie Lady Pirates are wearing black threads all the way across with some gray trim, AHMO on their chest. Of course, they finished third in District 9. Of course, that is the massive Garland district. So they had to play a couple more games more than the Lady Hawks as far as in-district play. So their season just finished up on Friday. Of course, the Lady Hawks finished up their district season with a big-time win over their rival Rockwall. Of course, those games are always a hoot no matter what sport it is. Of course, we just had an incredible softball game here the other night on Wednesday, and that one went to the Lady Hawks as well. They are 5-0 in district. They will face Forney on Tuesday for first place in District 10 6A. Just like the soccer teams did. It was down between Heath and Forney. Of course, Forney getting the better end of the Lady Hawks in those two matches. But none of that matters now. The playoffs that began And this is where you make a name for yourself in the UIL playoffs. Wylie throwing it in inside. Some nice defense there by Avery. Of course, Avery, one of the leaders on this team. She is a junior. And she has some height to her, that's for sure. So that's why she's back there helping defend just a little bit. Throwing right back into her. Avery playing some nice defense and muscling her way to the ball. Wylie, nice job of keeping it in. And that ball does go out. Ball stays with Wylie. Of course, we are here in the stands right by the track. A little different setup for a broadcast. But why not be in the elements? It's a beautiful day here in Wylie, Texas. Hawks doing a good job pushing it out of their end, and away they go. Here come the Lady Hawks all the way to midfield. Of course, midfield is a giant W. Stands for Wylie. Hopefully by the end of the night, it stands for win for the Lady Hawks. That ball does go out on the Lady Hawks, so it is going to be Wylie ball. Again, it is very hard to see here with the sun shining right into our eyes, so we're going to do the best we can. Here comes a fast break for Wylie. It's 2-on-2, and it is kicked out, and it will stay with Wylie. That should be a corner kick, and it will be. With 34-35 remaining here in the first half. Wylie taking their time, trying to figure out what kind of play they want to call. Of course, that corner kick is going to go on the home side here. That is number 14 for Wylie, I do believe. Two Lady Hawks guarding the post with Webb in the middle. Here's the kick, and it's going to sail up and over the top of the net. And that will be Lady Hawks soccer ball. Of course, as we mentioned, Sarah Webb, the standout goalkeeper. She is just a freshman, so a lot of excitement in the future for the Lady Hawks in net. Of course, the Lady Hawks net has been guarded by some legends over the years. This ball is kicked down the field to about the 10-yard line. Wylie takes over and puts it back into play into Hawks territory. And it looks like the Wylie Lady Pirates are coming up the field. Layer just missed it. Big time save by Webb. That's her first answer of the night. And that was a big one. Wylie was looking to strike early. But Miss Webb says absolutely not. Another kick. That one's going to sail up and over the goal. So Wylie starting to get a little bit of pressure on the Lady Hawks after the first minute. The Lady Hawks seem to have control of that first minute. Ever since then, Wylie has made some statements, including that amazing kick right there. But Webb was there to deny anything from going into the net. Of course, if you're watching us here on the network, let us know where you're watching from, what you're doing, what you're having for dinner tonight. Make me a little jealous, at least. It's a beautiful night. Hopefully you're watching us out by the pool or on the patio or anywhere else. Here comes a 3-on-2 for the Pirates after a Lady Hawk falls to the ground. And that one is blocked by Miss Avery. That one does go out of play, and here comes another corner kick. This is corner kick number 3 for the Wylie Lady Pirates. Of course, a lot of big games between these two schools over the years. Lady Hawks had the last laugh a couple years ago, and Wylie Pirates had one 2 years ago against the Lady Hawks. So big-time rivalries between these two schools in just about every sport. And 10-6A usually does have the last laugh in these bi-district games when it comes to the GISD district. Of course, Wylie is not part of GISD. They are their own district, of course, having Wylie and Wylie East. But they get to join the Garland district. Of course, thanks for tuning in to the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. Lady Pirates with a throw in here at the 10. That one is headed out. And the Lady Hawks cannot clear. That one ends up right back in the hands of the Pirates, but this time the Lady Hawks do try to clear. Avery gets it and boots it out. To about the 30, a big-time kick here by the Lady Pirates, and that one's going to sail out of bounds. So Lady Hawks taking on a little bit of water here in the opening 10 minutes. Trying to get their feet back into them. Looks like we have a substitution here. Looks like Pearl is going to come in. I did not see who she came in for. Pearl Desir has come in for the Lady Hawks. Hope I am not butchering her last name there. So we're going to go with Pearl. Of course, Pearl is another one of those freshman Lady Hawks. This team has a bunch of them. And this is going to be a fun 4-year run for this squad. Of course, this is just the beginning. We'll see how far they can push it into late March. Of course, that sun is finally just about down underneath the scoreboard here. And the Lady Hawks are going to boot that one into the sun. Of course, they're still having to kind of shade their eyes just a little bit. That sun still remains a little bit of a nuisance for the Lady Hawks. Of course, they will not have to look at the sun much more longer here, as it is just about to dive under the scoreboard on the apartment complex here, right behind Wylie Stadium's field. Shout out to Briley Shaw. Uncle Josh and fam loves you. We're watching from the cabin up in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. That has to be a nice place to be right now with this weather. Of course, earlier in the week, spring break was kind of a winter break, it felt like. And now it is feeling a little bit like summer here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Thanks for tuning in to Josh. And go Lady Hawks. Of course, if you're watching us, let us know where you're watching from. We're excited you guys got to join us. Of course, we do have 2 other matches going on across this area. Of course, the Rockwall Yellow Jackets are over at HBJ. That game is being streamed here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. I'm getting texts from my crew, so I don't know if they're all online yet, but we'll definitely try to make sure that they are all getting online. I will try to do some tech while I'm calling a soccer game, because that's just what we do here. So Lady Hawks trying to get that ball down the field. They have not really seen any action on their side of the field since the opening minute. This might be where they do it now. I'm going to check to make sure everybody else is live and rolling here on the network in case we have to do any troubleshooting. Looks like the Hawks are live. And it looks like the Yellow Jackets are live. Everybody's live. Looks like Saxey has a 1-0 lead already on Rockwall. And that bi-district championship. I don't see a scoreboard up. So we'll get you a score here in just a little bit. Another big-time shot by the Lady Pirates. And Miss Webb, she says no. Absolutely not. She is a big-time force for this Lady Hawks team. Of course, that ball gets up to midfield. Of course, as Coach Webb talks about, each part of the field is a third. And most of this action so far in this bi-district championship has been down in the Lady Pirates territory. They have had a few really good looks, but so far to no avail. As we have just hit 27 minutes left here in the first half. Of course, we play 40 minutes here in the UIL playoffs. And they play those 10 minutes of overtime. They do have 2 halves. Here comes a big-time break for the Lady Hawks, trying to push it. And the goal keep. And I believe that was Pearl that just collided with each other. And I do believe everybody is okay. Pearl a little shaky. That looks like, I can't tell from here, of course. Like I mentioned, it's 60 yards away from here. So trying to see, and we're on the opposite end of the field down here. It does look like Pearl has gone down. We're going to stop that clock with 26:37 remaining here in the first half. Shout out to Katie, who's going out there to make sure everything is okay. Of course, the head athletic trainer for Rockwall Heath High School. She is one of the best. Of course, it is Appreciated Athletic Trainer Month. As all month long, we are saluting our athletic trainers on our social medias. Of course, this is a timeout. This is something that Coach Piper is going to be a little worried about here. Of course, he does have 3 big-time injuries right now on his bench, including his leading scorer. So hopefully this is nothing more just than a little shakeup. It's hard to see what's going on at the moment as we are being blocked by the players' tent. Of course, Wylie has a really cool setup for soccer. They do have heated benches here. They are not needed here, obviously, today with temperatures soaring into the 80s. It did look like Pearl and the goalkeeper for a while. They collided shoulders. It was a pretty big collision. It looks like the goalkeeper for Wylie is okay, so that's good news. And we're hoping we get some good news here for Pearl. Of course, winner of this game moves on to the next round. Of course, we are here in the stands for the soccer game, so we do have fans behind us, so all will be well here. Of course, I'm going to try to pull up the bracket here for the UIL playoffs for the girls. There, it looks like Pearl is getting up. That's a really good sign. Of course, both fans clapping in appreciation. And off the field, she is getting carried off by Coach Piper. So obviously that's not good news for the Lady Hawks. Hoping that she will be able to return here. We will keep you updated on Miss Pearl, and hopefully she will be okay. The winner of this match will go on to play Midway or Waxahachie. Those 2 teams will be playing tonight as well. Of course, they have just kicked off at 7 p.m. as well. 26:37 remaining here in the first half. Of course, we did have about a 5-minute injury timeout right there for the Lady Hawks. Great crowd on hand here from Rockwall Heath. They managed to pack it. And now they're going to try to motivate their Lady Hawks without Pearl to keep fighting as we will continue on here in the Bi-District Championship. Welcome inside the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. My name is Chris Curtis. It is just me on the mic today, but luckily Lisa Trammell decided to come and hang out. She's running the camera here tonight. Appreciate her. I was going to be in trouble having to run a camera and do this, so of course it's spring break. So we were able to get everybody a broadcast tonight, so mission complete in our eyes. Returning to play here, Wylie keeps control of the ball. Heath is doing some great work on the defensive end here. Of course, Lady Hawks are rocking the glitter, and they're also rocking the red. I believe that's gray headbands inside. Of course, the red is the main color of Rockwall Heath. Of course, there's a big-time tackle and a push. No call right in front of the referee. A shot from about the 18-yard line, and Miss Webb says no once again. She has been on point today. And they're going to need her. Lady Hawks kick it back up to midfield. It is turned over once again. Big-time push here by Wylie. And some great defense. There is some great size back there for the Lady Hawks. It is tough to maneuver through them, as they have proven all season long. It is not easy to get past them, and if you do, you have to get through Miss Webb, which is even harder. 24:50 remaining here in the first half. Here's a corner kick. Gracie with the play here, and it's going to roll out again. Looks like we're going to have another corner. Sarah was able to get just the tips of that ball over the net, so it was unable to get into the net. Throw in here by Wylie, and they are moving the ball outside the 10. Some good movement there. Really good touches by Wylie, but they turn it over. And Rockwall Heath is moving up, and here we go. Heath trying to get some momentum flowing here. As Briley Shaw takes control, she's in a little bit of a pushing match. She wins the battle, and she shoots it on net, and it's right there for the taking. Empty net. The goalie is out, and Rockwall Heath cannot find the net. Oh, the goalkeeper for Wylie made a big-time push up the field. The net was wide open, and Rockwall Heath could not take advantage of that. That is the most pressure that they have had since that first minute of the half. So we'll see if that helps create a little momentum just a little bit. Of course, shout out to Nathan Tran tuning in. Go Hawks, another big-time collision. And another Lady Hawk is down. That looks like that is... It's hard to tell from here. Whoever it was is up and trotting down the field, so no worries for the Lady Hawks. Of course, we will keep you posted on... We see Pearl pop up back into the game here. She is in the tent right now. Lady Hawks with a big-time kick from the 50. That one sails out off of Wylie. So here comes what the Lady Hawks are known for. They are very dangerous in the corners. It's where they score a majority of their goals is here from the corner. A number of plays they have for these types of moments. Two Lady Hawks sitting there at the corner. And again, it is hard to see from here. But what I can tell you is the Lady Hawks have the ball in the corner. Of course, that is on the visitor side of the field. The play is in. Lady Hawks motion out. Here comes the corner. It's into the net area, and it goes off of a Lady Hawks head to the Wylie Lady Pirates. Thanks for the tip, Margaret. We are sitting here right on the track, so it's a little hard for the camera and to get that perfect shot as we usually would get from up top or with a huddle, but we are doing our best. Here comes Wylie back on the attack. That one off of a Lady Pirate into the net, but right into the logo of Sarah Webb. Sarah Webb has come to play. She's made 5 really good saves so far to keep the Lady Hawks and Lady Pirates square at 0. Of course, this matchup is brought to you by the UIL. No commercials for the playoffs. We do thank our sponsors throughout Rockwall ISD and the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. Unfortunately, we cannot bring those to you here on the UIL playoffs, but they know who they are. So we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Of course, this is the first time the playoffs have been on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network in soccer. So we're excited to bring you all 3 matchups here tonight. And we will see what the future holds. Of course, most of these teams will, if they do win, they will probably play on Tuesday. There is an option for Monday, but more than likely they like to have those extra days. A lot of fighting here for the ball on the Wylie side of things. A nice kick into the middle for Wylie. It misses everybody, and it rolls all the way to the sideline, but not out. That one's kicked right back into the middle by Wylie. And they keep it from the 20. There's some space here for the Lady Pirates. They shoot it on net to no avail once again. Miss Webb is there. Nothing is getting past her right now. She is feeling it, of course. Coach Piper will probably like to see a little more pressure. The 2 shots that the Lady Hawks have had have been very dangerous shots, but they did not make it in. So here they come again. Crowd's getting behind them. Nice little touch there by Avery. And it goes out on the Lady Pirates, so the Lady Hawks will throw it in. This is going to be Miss Laird throwing it in. Of course, big time arm there. That sun has finally decided to go down past the scoreboard, past the apartment complex. That sits right here on the field. Or if you're a big-time soccer fan, it is called the pitch. But we do play at the football stadium. So here's a kick from the goalkeeper for Wylie. Doesn't get very far. The Lady Hawks are able to take advantage of it. And that ball is turned over, and the Lady Pirates are off and rolling, but great play right there by Laird. She was able to get that ball out, but the Lady Pirates find it right back. Nice move here at the 10. It kind of dribbles inside to no avail. Here's a shot from the 20, and the Lady Hawks block it. Another turnover. Lady Pirates push it back up to the 30. Lady Hawks slips right there. That was Gensel that just took a tumble. She is holding her hip just a little bit. Took an awkward little spill right there. She is A-OK for the senior leader of this team. Here come the Pirates again. Pushing it over here to the away side. And some moves. Lady Hawks double team. And that one goes off of Wylie. So here come the Lady Hawks. Of course, Coach Piper is sending out his instructions to his team. Of course, they've had two pretty good chances to score a goal here, but it remains 0-0 with 17:25 remaining in the first half. Of course, that clock does go down in soccer, not up. Of course, if these two teams remain tied throughout this game, they will go to sudden death. It's 2 10-minute overtimes, then they switch ends. If it doesn't finish there, they go right to the shootouts. Lady Hawks push it into the middle. A goal keep goes down again. Lady Hawks tumbling everywhere. That one goes up and over. And Lady Hawks are finding ways to get the goal keep out of position. They just cannot push that ball in. Of course, not looking good for Pearl as the crutches are coming out. So hopefully that's nothing more than just a little bump. And we'll see what the future holds for her. Of course, she is a freshman, one of those freshman leaders of this team. So we're wishing her all the best here as they have the golf cart out. So the Lady Hawks are going to have to step up here just a little bit more, and they had some injuries going into this game. It looks like they're going to be without Pearl for the rest of this one. 15:58 remaining. Let us know where you're watching the game from, what you're doing here tonight on a Friday night and the first day of spring. It is the best time of year. If you're a Rockwall ISD fan, of course, soccer is underway. Of course, softball, baseball have been rolling. Track's rolling. Gymnastics is rolling. Golf and tennis are rolling. We're rolling into the final stretch of the 2025-2026 school year. Of course, about 2 months left here in the school year, and we will be back to summer again. Feels like we just had it. Of course, the spring season does go fairly fast for especially us here in athletics. It is a mad dash to the graduation stage. Here come the Lady Pirates, a big-time kick, and that one sails way over the net. To the fans behind the field, looks like that's a bunch of little Hawks that are back there throwing the football and kicking the soccer ball around, and there are some extra ball boys and ball girls back there, so shout out to them. course, this team has been very dominant all season long. Fantastic season by the Lady Hawks. Here's another dump inside, and the Lady Pirates can do nothing but shoot it out. So here comes a throw in once again for the Lady Hawks. Of course, Rockwall Heath entering its 20th year of existence, of course, opening back in 2005. That puts an age on me, unfortunately. Here comes a header from Rockwall Heath to no avail. It goes back, a kick inside for the Lady Hawks, trying to cause some chaos there. They are double teamed, and a kick from the corner sails all the way to the home benches over there. And so the Lady Pirates will take over here with 13:37 remaining in the first half. Of course, welcome inside the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. My name is Chris Curtis. Lisa Trammell on the camera tonight. Of course, the winner of this match will move on to next week. There will be a Tuesday, Friday matches. Of course, with the regional tournament no longer a thing, it's pretty much a game every 3 or 4 days, essentially, instead of having 2 games in 2 days, essentially, in the regional tournament, which used to be for this district down in the Austin area. Never a bad thing to go to Austin in late spring. Beautiful weather down there for the most part. Looks like the Gale family, Gigi and Papa, watching from Antlers, Oklahoma. Thanks for tuning in to the Rockwall ISD Sports Network from Antlers, Oklahoma. I don't think I've ever heard of Antlers, Oklahoma. But thanks for watching. It is 0-0, or as the soccer people call it, 0-0. With 12:22 remaining. These teams starting to get a little physical. Lady Pirate and Lady Hawk slow to get up. They both collide with each other. And Wylie has really kind of taken it to Rockwall Heath here in the opening 25 minutes or so. Of course, the Lady Hawks have not really had a game in about a week. It is kind of an awkward break for 10-6A when they do have to play District 9, as District 9 has couple more teams than 10-6A, so their season extends a little further. Of course, the Lady Hawks coming out that emotional win over the Lady Jackets, essentially ending the Lady Jackets season. And what a run it was for the Lady Jackets over the last several years, since the COVID year. And another Lady Hawk hits the turf. She is not getting up. That is Avery Enoch, and another Lady Hawk hits the floor. And man, this is turning ugly as another Lady Hawk hits the ground. She is getting up, though. Big time clopping here for Avery. Of course, that junior forward for the Lady Hawks. She is up, and she seems to be okay. A little shaken up. Just saying some things to the referee. Nothing bad. She is back and moving, and she is running, and she is ready. And we keep going. Start that clock back up again. 11:24 essentially left. Here come the Lady Hawks. They're rolling. Big time hand for Pearl as she is being carted off here. So we are going to keep her in our thoughts here going forward. And here comes a throw in for the Lady Hawks. Of course, every time I think of a throw in, you can never forget the great Miss Jeter, who had big time cannon when it came to throwing the ball in. Of course, she is a former Lady Hawk, graduated class of 2025. And she was known for these throw-ins. She could throw that ball really, really far. So having to make up for someone different, of course, as after she graduated. The clock has seemed to stop here for a little bit. I don't know what we're discussing. So we're going to stop that clock too and figure out where to go from here. And that clock now does begin to tick down. Lady Hawks have possession here inside the box. That one's kicked out by the Lady Pirates. And the Lady Pirates have one girl to get through, and they do not. Lady Hawks got caught sleeping just a little bit, but Charlotte Smith was there and prevents the fast break for the Lady Pirates. Back the other way we go. Of course, the Lady Pirates are playing with the wind here. That wind is kind of dying down a little bit. It is going to gust to 16, 17 throughout the night. So the Lady Hawks will be going from my left to your right in the second half. Right now, they are going from my right to your left. I think I said that correct. Here comes another throw-in for the Lady Hawks. Throws it onto the ground to try to get a nice little roller there. Into the corner go the Lady Hawks. Of course, out of bounds in soccer is not the original football sidelines. There is the black line a little further outside. That is the actual out marker for soccer. Fans trying to get the Hawks going. We've hit 10 minutes remaining here in the first half. It is 0-0. And another corner kick. Two Lady Hawks into the corner as they draw up their play. As Coach Piper shouts the play in. Hand in the air. Lady Hawks moving around in some chaos formation here. Two fall back into the paint, and it was off the goal post. Lady Hawks tried to use their height there. They are a little taller inside than the Wylie Lady Pirates. Lady Pirates get it out. Here's some speed on the outside. And once again, Charlotte Smith. She can fly. And she prevents Wylie from going on a 2-on-1 fast break. There was a Lady Pirate creeping on the other side. Here's a ball inside and another collision. Two Lady Hawks go down. But Miss Webb says nope. And away we go. Here's the boot from Webb. Of course, if you're a Lady Hawk fan, you realize this is a very young team, so this is their girls' first playoff action here in 6A soccer in the state of Texas. So this is going to be a great learning experience, win or lose for these girls. Of course, that's kind of how these dynasties start, is they figure it out first, and then they start going on their runs. And that's exactly what these Lady Hawks hope to do, but they like to shock the world and go on a big-time run here over the next 3 weeks. Of course, state is being held in Georgetown as always. And if the Lady Hawks do decide to make the state game, of course, it is just one game. It is no longer two there. That will be held on a Saturday morning in early April. I believe it's Easter weekend. 8 minutes to go here in the first half. Thank you for joining us inside the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. My name is Chris Curtis. Lisa Trem on the camera. Will Shepard, let's go Hawks. Another J-Lee fan out there. Lady Hawks push it up. And back the other way we go. Lady Hawks trying to get some speed and a break. Lady Hawk takes a tumble there. That was J-Lee Shepard. Lady Pirates coming back again. And Miss Webb dives on it. Back the other way we go. Kind of been a game of runs here, more so favoring the Lady Pirates as far as dangerous chances, but the two that the Lady Hawks have had have been extremely dangerous with an empty net. And the Lady Hawk cannot push it in. They will look to eventually get one in here. Of course, this is a very fast-scoring team, as they have proven all season long. They have been tested. Of course, playing Forney twice, who was one of the top teams in the state. Of course, they gave Forney a run for their money, falling down 3-0 in the second game. And then nearly clawing their way all the way back in the final 10 minutes to tie that game. They did fall a goal short. Back a couple of weeks ago at the Heath Coliseum, as they call it. Of course, that was a great test for the Lady Hawks to kind of see where they were in relation to that team that a lot of people are predicting to go to at least the Final Four here in the UIL playoffs. Forney Lady Jackrabbits. The District 10 6A champions. Congratulations to Forney. Of course, they are playing tonight as well. And a little bit of pushing down there. No call. That one flies out of bounds behind the Lady Hawk net. So the Lady Hawks will take over here. Jensel will kick it up and out of play here. Of course, let us know where you're watching from. Trying to catch all these comments here. Of course, about 5 minutes to go here in the first half. Lady Hawks and Lady Pirates from Wylie ISD. Lady Hawks deciding what they want to do here with a throw in. Referee having a few words for some of the players. And back we go. A kick from the 40 into the net area. That one's kind of moving around there, but it eventually is cleared out by the Lady Pirates off the sideline. Lady Hawks will retain possession with 4:20 remaining here. Some substitutions coming in here. Looks like we got Enoch going back in and Jaylee Shepard coming out for the Lady Hawks. Big time kick from about the 40. That one has a nice sail to it. The goalkeeper can't get it. It's there. And Wylie, again, is able to kick it out. Lady Hawks starting to get a little pressure on the Lady Pirates. You're kind of feeling it. Maybe they're going to try to get one in here in the last 3 minutes here of the first half. Of course, this broadcast cannot have commercials. We do have UIL commercials that we will be happy to show you here at halftime. At a 10-minute halftime in high school soccer. Throw in by the Lady Hawks into the keeper box, but that one sails off the left post. And the Lady Pirates will take over here with just about 3 minutes to go in the first half. Got a question that came in. Why does Heath have to play an away game in Wylie? So the reasoning behind playing here was a coin toss that the Lady Hawks were not able to win. Of course, most soccer teams do a coin toss, especially when they're in close proximity like this. And another reasoning was the Heath Hawks are playing at Wilkerson at 7, so they would have had to play a 5:30 game, which was the first option on the table that Wylie was not a fan of. And so they flipped, and Wylie won the toss, so they elected to have a home game right here in their stadium. Of course, Heath played Wylie East earlier in the year. They did not play at this stadium. They did beat Wylie East 2-0. So they have not seen this stadium as far as this year before, but they have seen it in the past. But as we mentioned, this team is very young, so a lot of them, this is their first run with the varsity team. But even though Wylie is home, the Lady Hawks fans have shown up and shown out. Great crowd here for the Lady Hawks. On the first day of spring and the last Friday of spring break. Of course, everybody returns to school on Monday as we enter the final stretch of the 25-26 school year. Of course, the winner of this game, as we mentioned, will take on Midway or Waxahachie. That could be a home-and-home flip, or it could be a neutral site. Of course, if you're playing Midway, of course, down in Waco, that one could be found somewhere halfway, typically Corsicana-ish. If you play Waxahachie, it could also be Corsicana-ish. Or it could be a home-and-home. There's a number of options for the playoffs in other sports other than football. Of course, usually football. Of course, that first round is a home game for the upper seed, and everything else is a neutral site. With 30 seconds to go, Wylie's trying to make a statement here down the sideline, 20 to the 10. Gets inside to no avail. The Rockwall Heath defense stones again. And that was Addison Dewey. Great play there by the sophomore. And the Lady Hawks are going to be content with running this clock out. And we reach halftime with the score. Lady Hawks 0. And the Wylie Lady Pirates 0. We're going to roll a commercial or two. A UIL commercial, that is. Of course, we do thank our sponsors throughout the year, but we are not allowed to roll those sponsors during the playoff broadcast. So we're going to roll a few commercials, and we'll come right back here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. Welcome back inside the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. We are at halftime here with the score. Heath and Wylie, 0-0. Let's check in and see what's going on across the area. Of course, the Rockwall Yellow Jackets are just starting the second half. And Saxe leads that game 1-0. Of course, Saxe winning district over there in the boys' side of things. And checking in on the Heath Hawks. It is tied 1-1 with about 2 minutes left to go here in the first half over in Rockwall. Of course, Wilkinson Sanders is the home of the Yellow Jackets. So if you want to watch those games, of course, they are on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network as well. Of course, thanks to those that are tuning in to watch the Lady Hawks here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. We greatly appreciate you. Coming up to begin the week next week, of course, we do have a lot of fun stuff to plan. We don't know really what our schedule is going to be at the moment. We kind of will have to see how our soccer teams do. We will be broadcasting soccer for as long as we can and as long as the teams go on a roll. As of now, we do have a softball game planned, and a baseball game planned, at least for next week that we know of. The Lady Jackets will take on North Forney in Rockwall. Of course, Rockwall coming off that 8-6 loss to their rival, the Rockwall Heath Lady Hawks. Lady Hawks 5-0. And more importantly, they will take on Forney, who was also 5-0. The winner of that game will hold, at least for now, the lead in District 10 6A. And of course, we will have Heath Hawk baseball next week. We will have Rockwall Yellow Jacket baseball next week. And we'll have whatever soccer matches await for us. We'll have to see. Of course, right now we have 2 ties. And Rockwall trails Saxe 1-0 as they have just started the second half of play. About 6 minutes to go here in halftime. Beautiful facility here in Wylie, Texas. Of course, Wylie, a part of District 9. That is not a tornado that you hear behind me. That is a bunch of little Hawk fans making sure they get hydrated out here at half for the exciting second half of action coming up. So a lot of exciting sports action coming your way here over the next few weeks. Of course, tennis and golf about to get going. They've gotten going, but they really start getting going here after next couple weeks. Of course, we had the Rock and R relays on Friday. Of course, if you're a Rockwall Heath fan, high jumping is the name of the game. Of course, Rockwall Heath has 2 really good female high jumpers. Excited to see how they progress here over the next few weeks into district and area and regionals and all the fun stuff awaiting us. Of course, Maggie Younger in attendance here today, head coach of the Lady Hawks volleyball team. Won't be long until volleyball will be rocking and rolling again here before you know it. Of course, this is the first year of the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. We've had incredible success this year. We're really excited to bring you all these games, and we're going to be adding some stuff over the summer. It's a good time for us to get down, figure out what we need, how to keep going, and make this even better for you, the fans. So we appreciate all the support that you guys give us. We appreciate the critiques, and we appreciate the positivity. We take all of it. So we appreciate you. There's Miss Katie, the hardest worker in the stadium right now, with her Miss America wave. Of course, it is March, and we do appreciate everything that our athletic trainers do. But we definitely celebrate them here in the month of March. Of course, shout out to Katie and her team for being everywhere. They give up a lot to help our kiddos out when they go down, especially here tonight, as they've been busy. So we appreciate them here in the month of March. Not just the month of March, but all the time. So again, we have a 1-1 tie over at Wilkerson Sanders. The Heath Hawks taking on Wylie. It is 1-1. They are just now getting into halftime there. And of course, Rockwall trails 1-0 over at Homer Johnson Stadium in Garland, the home of the Saxe Mustangs, where they play their home games. So they were able to get home field advantage. They did flip for that one as well. And Rockwall did lose that flip. So keepers are warming up on one side. 0 action on the other side. That is the Rockwall Heath squad warming up. Piper likes to keep his team loose and feeling it out. Of course, the talk is being had right now. Probably want to see a little more pressure here if you're the Heath Hawks. A little more high-quality danger chances. They had their chances here. Just could not get one past the Wylie goalkeeper. About 3 minutes to go here before we get going. Once again, second half of action coming on. Lisa Trammell has to pull out her camera. When she sees a shot, she has to take it. Of course, the sun is setting behind here. A nice little orange and blue mix with the crescent moon and probably a planet right below it, or a massive star. Moon and a star, as you see on your screen right there. It's a beautiful night here in Wylie. Of Of course, we are in the bleachers, not a typical broadcast spot. Of course, the fans are separated here. After talking to the stadium manager, they like to keep the fans separate on each side, just in case. So that's the reasoning we are on the visitor side here tonight. The story with not being able to be in the press box is you got to climb the stairs to get up there. The elevators are not working. They had some damage when we had the ice storm a few weeks ago. Feels like forever ago. But they had some massive flooding, which caused the elevator to just completely die. So if you want to go to the press box, you got to climb. And so with our equipment, we said, we're good. Find us a spot. So we found a nice little spot here on the bleachers on a beautiful night in Wylie. So that is why we are here in the bleachers and not up in the press box. Of course, we don't know where we're going next week. Got to grab a few wins before we do that. So we'll see what happens here over the next hour or so. Of course, it is March Madness. Everybody is watching basketball right now. And of course, the UIL playoffs can also be considered March Madness. It is that time of year. It is the best time of year if you are a sports fan. You got basketball rolling on in March Madness. Of course, NBA playoffs coming up. NHL playoffs coming up. The NFL draft is coming up. Of course, the World Cup will be held on the North American side this year. So excited about that, especially if you're a soccer fan. Of course, that American pride will keep running from the World Baseball Classic to the two hockey teams winning the gold medal here. So a lot of exciting things happening in the sports world. Of course, if you want to go locally, great runs by our basketball teams this year. And of course, soccer, 3 of the 4 teams punching their ticket to the playoffs. Of course, the Lady Jackets didn't quite make it. They got eliminated by these Lady Hawks. Of course, most of these girls have been teammates at some point in their careers, whether it be at the Y or tournament teams. They all know each other. A lot of mutual respect. They want to beat each other, but there's a lot of mutual respect once that horn goes off between those two schools. And it's like that in just about every sport. It really is a cool thing to have, as most of these kids have grown up playing sports together. So really cool thing we got going on here at Rockwall ISD. Of course, let us know where you're watching from, maybe what you're eating tonight, where you're watching it from, maybe out on the patio. Might not be warm enough for the pool yet, but we do know when during football season, there's a lot of pool parties when we have our games on, so that's pretty cool. Won't be long here, I got a feeling, especially we're going to get into the 90s this weekend. So maybe by Tuesday, we can make that happen for you. Of course, that sun is just about fully set here. As the teams are making their way back, Wylie will start with the ball in the second half. There's 40 minutes left, of course, as we talked about. If these two teams go past 80 minutes, all tied up, we go to 2 10-minute sudden death overtimes. You can score in those 20 minutes. Just doesn't mean you can score in the first. You still play the 20 minutes, and then if that doesn't settle it, you go straight to sudden death penalty kicks. It's never fair that a season can come down between penalty kicks, but at some point you got to get out of here. So that is what they do. 8:07 p.m. here in Wylie as we start the second half of play between two really good soccer clubs, the Wylie Lady Pirates and the Rockwall Heath Lady Hawks. They're looking to get their first playoff win since 2023, which was against these Wylie Lady Pirates. So Wylie is now moving down the field away from us, so it will be a lot harder to kind of see what's going on. The Lady Hawks will be coming toward us. So if you're a Lady Hawk fan, you got to like that. Should be able to see a little bit easier once they move down this way. But it's the Lady Pirates that are starting with the ball, and they've started with a little bit of pressure down into the Lady Hawks territory. Throw in from about the 15-yard line. And that ball is kicked out by the Lady Hawks, so we will have another throw in here in just a second. Of course, we will keep you updated on what's going on across the district. Of course, Tyler Legacy's season did come to an end, the girls' side. Of course, they were the D2-2 team that made it in. Lady Hawks get the ball and clear it. Ball doesn't take a friendly bounce. It's heading back the other way off of a header of the Lady Pirates. And you're going to start seeing probably some pushing here by the Lady Hawks as they're going to start getting into the flow of things. Second half is usually where they come alive here, especially over the last month or so. They have really found their game in the second half. But it's the Lady Pirates pushing it forward down to the 30, down to the 20. A kick, and that one, just missed. Webb was able to get just her fingernails on that one and keep this thing knotted at 0. Huge save by the Lady Hawks. Of course, Webb is back in net for the second half. A lot of soccer teams like to do the 1-2 punch when it comes to keepers. But it looks like this is going to be Sarah's net for the remainder of the game, barring an injury, of course. Here's another kick, and that one goes up and over. I believe it was off her hand. It was not. So it'll be a kick, free kick here for the Lady Hawks. Of course, it's a little harder to see from this angle going down that way. Thanks for tuning in, everybody watching us from near and afar. We've got people from Heath, from Oklahoma, and I'm sure we got people from all over the place watching us, so we appreciate you tuning in. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know who you want us to shout out, and we will do our best to make that happen. 36-25 remaining here in the second half. Lady Hawks have really yet to kind of possess the ball here, but they will now, as soon as I say it. Here we go. Lady Hawks moving up the sideline at the 20. And that one goes off of Briley Shaw, so the Lady Pirates will take back over. Of course, the Lady Hawks wearing their white kits, black shorts, red trim around the black letters of Heath. Of course, their number on the front and back. And they have that nice red trim with the H on their sleeve. If they don't have their sleeves rolled up, of course. And, of course, they are rocking the red and white and black headbands. Looks like every single girl has that going on right now. So the spirit is alive. Some glitter as well. Really nice touch was the glitter in the hair. Of course, the Heath fans have shown up and shown out. A lot of fans here on the first day of spring. So welcome in. It's been a great game. Teams have been on their runs. Lady Hawks have probably had the most dangerous chance of scoring a goal. Had an empty net, and they just missed it. Lady Pirates have had some really good shots, but been directly on goal, so not much chaos by the Lady Pirates. But this is not a easy-breezy first-round matchup for your Lady Hawks. The Lady Pirates are really good. Of course, they had to battle Saxe, who was one of the top teams in the state, in their district. These two teams are pretty evenly matched. Of course, Lady Hawks are without their top scorer here tonight. No idea if she will be available going forward. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But that is a big miss here for the Lady Hawks, of course. Rowley holds that one in the corner, and that one goes off the Lady Pirates. So a throw in will be incoming here for the Lady Hawks. Gensel will have the throw in. Nope, she gives it right over to number 2, Miss Laird. So Miss Laird will throw it in here. So here we go. A throw in from about the goal line. Nice throw in into the middle of the floor there, and it's kicked out. Here comes a big kick from the 30, and that one's going to roll all the way to the flag on the other end of the field and out of play. And that one will be Lady Pirate ball. Of course, this stadium does have a track around it. Black fence all the way around the field, so the ball is not going to go too far. Of course, at Wilkerson, it's a little different scenario. It does have a fence around it, but sometimes those balls can fly out of play. A little more time is wasted, but not here. And the same at the Heath Coliseum, where the Lady Hawks and Hawks play their home games as well. There's a push down. That's a turnover for the Lady Hawks. Looks like Sydney Warner coming up limping just a little bit. The Lady Hawks have kind of taken their licks here today. And Sydney's going to go down on the 20-35. She's struggling a bit. Another shot on goal by the Lady Pirates. The ball doesn't go in the net, but the Lady Pirate does. And that danger was to no avail. Sydney is still sitting down on the 35. It looks like a cramp, perhaps. Whistle has not yet to blow. This is going to be an advantage for Wylie until the whistle blows as they are down. Sydney's trying to get back up. She is back up, and she goes back down again. She's trying her best to get in there, and she just cannot get up. They're going to blow the whistle finally here. With 32:09 remaining in the second half. Kind of looked like they collided knees a litn't bit. I couldn't tell if it was a knee or a cramp. It is kind of humid out here. It does feel nice, but especially for a team that hasn't played in about a week. Of course, Katie's getting her work in here today. Of course, the Lady Hawks already losing Pearl. She left on the cart. Of course, they're without their leading scorer as well. Sydney is getting up. It looks like a cramp. I think she's going to be okay. Nothing some pickle juice can't handle. She's shaking it out. As we will continue. Of course, we do not see Mumphrey or Perez. Both starters are not in this game. So we wondered if that would cause a little bit of chaos for the Lady Hawks, but there's plenty of depth according to Piper, so not too worried about it. Of course, they would like to see them here if they were to advance from the Bi-District Championship. Hopefully they can get those two back, and then hopefully Pearl can find her way back into this hopefully long run for the Lady Hawks here in mid-March. The 2026 UIL State Playoffs. As we check in to see what is going on around the district and it's still 1-0. Saxe leads Rockwall. And Wylie now leads the Hawks 2-1 over in Rockwall, excuse me. So the boys' side of things not looking good at the moment, both trailing by a goal. This one is 0-0. So we'll see what happens. Of course, we will bring you some soccer next week. We don't know who or where or what, but we'll bring it. Here comes a kick from Wylie inside. That one's dangerous. It bounces around, and it's cleared by the Lady Hawks, and up they go. 2-on-2, that one's pushed right back into play, into Lady Hawks territory. Lady Hawks have yet to really get anything dangerous going here in the second half. They have had a throw-in, but nothing really transpired from it. Lady Pirates have had two pretty good chances here in the second half, but have not scored on them. Substitution incoming here for the Lady Pirates. Of course, those injuries, we don't ask what the injury is. We're just told there's an injury, so we don't like to report on that, especially during the playoff season. So hopefully we see all three of those girls back in action very, very soon. There's some chaos here in the middle, trying to put it in, and Wylie scores. There was some mass chaos there. And that one found the back of the net. So Wylie with 29-25 remaining in the game. And Wylie leads 1-0 here on their home turf. That was just kind of an unfortunate situation. There was some chaos in front of the net. And it found its way behind Webb. And so the Lady Hawks will have to play catch up here tonight in the Bi-District Championship. A reminder, the winner moves on to the area championship and the loser's season comes to an abrupt end on the first day of spring. Of course, the fans are tuning in here on the YouTube channel, the Rock West Esports Network, cheering on the Lady Hawks. Fans trying to get behind them as well. With 28:30 left to go, the Lady Hawks will have a throw-in for the first time in a while. You probably will start seeing the heat turned up just a little bit here for the Lady Hawks. That one's kicked out of bounds about the 30. So we'll have a throw-in here. As the fans here are going to try to rally the troops and see if this high-powered offense can get going once again. Lady Hawks just can't keep that ball in play, and that one flies out of bounds. And so that ball is turned over back to the Lady Pirates. And it's starting to get a little chippy out there. It's been chippy most of the night, nothing too crazy. But there have been some shoves. And here comes a breakout for the Lady Pirates, and Webb is able to get out there and deny anything from happening. That was a great save by Sarah Webb, the freshman. Of course, that is the 11th goal scored on her this season. Of course, nothing comes easy in the playoffs, no matter who you are. It is a grind for 3 to 4 weeks, as it's been a grind for the entire season. From playing in the bitter cold to the extreme heat to the rain. These girls don't want their season to end. But Wylie's threatening again. And that is a foul on Wylie, and that one's going to be Lady Hawk ball. And some fans not too happy about that call. But we're fine. We're good. With 26-25 remaining in the game. Wylie up 1-0 on the Lady Hawks. Of course, a shout out to March Madness there, it looks like. Here's another kick inside by Wylie, and that one goes the opposite way, out of bounds. And that one's going to be Lady Hawk ball. And it looks like we have another Lady Hawk down. Cannot see what's going on. The 10 is blocking our way. So I apologize that I can't see what just happened, but it did look like Lady Hawk goes down as Katie and Piper are back out there seeing what's going on. Lady Hawks have took some hits tonight. No question about it. And it's something this young team is going to learn about playoff soccer, is the intensity kicks up a little bit more. Let's get that clock stopped on our end here. Of course, when the playoffs start, the intensity rises just a little bit. It just means a little bit more. You got to earn everything when it comes to the 6A playoffs. As these two teams are definitely having dreams of getting to Georgetown and raising a trophy, getting a ring, and being part of a legacy for their schools. Of course, again, I do apologize. I cannot see what is going on. The injury is literally in front of the tent on the other side, so it is blocking anything that we can see. So I don't know even who is down at the moment. So we will let you know here shortly. It looks like the golf cart is making its way back again for another Lady Hawk. At least circling to see if they need to be helped off. It looks like the player is up. That does look like it could be, I think it's Gensel. She is getting helped off the field. She is walking on her own a little bit. I can't tell who that is, to be honest. I think it's Gensel. And yes, it is. So the senior taking a bit of a tumble. She is gingerly walking off the pitch here with 25-29 remaining. The Lady Hawks are taking on some water here just a little bit when it comes to injuries. Of course, it's a beautiful night here in Wylie, the home of the Lady Pirates. So we have returned to action here. The Lady Pirates are threatening once again. That ball is shot in front of the net. A little bit of chaos again, and the Lady Hawks are able to boot it out of play. Again, we will try to keep you updated on all the other games going on. Looks like Rockwall has tied the ball game over in Garland. That game has about 9 minutes to go in that one. And the Heath Hawks now trail 3-1 to Wylie. And that one might be a little bit of a shocker for the 10-6A district champs, as their season is now seeming to be on life support with that game in the second half as well. So, with that being said, we'll have to see what happens here as all three teams, a little bit of danger, being shocked by this Garland ISD district. Of course, Wylie is not part of Garland ISD, but they are part of the district. That includes every 6A Garland school, which is basically every school but name it. Another tie-up, no call, and two more Lady Hawks are going down. Ball in the middle for the Lady Hawks. They're going to try to push it in, and they get nothing. Great defense. We have another Lady Hawk down. This time it's Sydney Warner. Of course, that one's happening right here in front of us. Of course, Coach Piper not too happy that there was not a call there. They did let them play. The refs have let these girls play for the most part. Little bit of a stretch. She is walking off. Sydney is, that is. She has to come out of the game. She is walking off on her own power, so that's a good sign. And we're going to start to see the bench here. And the Hawks have that depth. That's what they're known for, too. They're able to have some of that depth coming in. Of course, it is a young squad behind the starter bench. This is Jamie Shepard coming in. She's a sophomore forward. So this team, which has a ton of young talent, they're getting a taste of it here. They're getting a taste of 6A playoff soccer and what it takes to win a game in the playoffs. It is not easy. So these Hawks are going to be pushed against the wall here and see if they can come back and tie this game up. And we'll get the clock reset here for you. With 22:30 pretty much remaining here in the second half. A throw-in for the Lady Hawks down by the corner on the home side. Big-time throw-in. Off the head. Lady Hawks trying to get it in. They push it in front. Nothing there. And that one is out of bounds from Wylie. So that was a good chance for the Lady Hawks. They're starting to kind of feel it now. Of course, they've kind of lost some size there in the middle with these injuries that have popped up. They're going to try a header again to no avail. Wylie clears it, but it pops right back in the middle. The Hawks trying to put it in, and it goes off a Wylie player. So this should be a corner kick for the Lady Hawks. That was a great play. Had almost another wide empty net for Bradley Shaw, but went right off a Wylie player just in the nick of time, or that would have been potentially a tying goal. So here come the Lady Hawks from the corner. Another two-lady set. Coach Piper sending instructions down to his team. Lady Hawks all charging into the net. They're going to try to get one off the bounce here, and it goes in. And there's a goal for the Lady Hawks. They just tackle their player. I'm sure Coach Piper will not like to see his player down there, as there is a mob in the end zone for the Lady Hawks. And I did not see who scored that goal, but it doesn't matter. It's a 1-1 game with exactly 22 minutes to go. I don't want to think, but I think it was Bradley Shaw, the freshman. But I can't confirm that. I did not see. There was a lot of commotion in front of the net. But regardless, it found the back of the net, and we have a brand new soccer game with 22 to go. Lady Hawks and Lady Pirates deadlocked at 1. Lady Hawks, after having that last injury, said enough is enough. And they have fired back. And they got a little momentum going now. The mojo is a little higher. Of course, playoffs, you have to be desperate. You have to want it. And Lady Hawks are going to try to push their way back in front in this one. Of course, all those summers of training and in the winter of running all those miles. Soccer is a very demanding sport for these ladies. Of course, most of them are playing in other leagues, not just high school soccer. Of course, they're playing club ball and whatnot, so it's just a way of life for them. But now you get to play for your school. Always means a little more when you have that high school on your chest and you have that logo on your shorts and on your sleeve. Just means a little more. Of course, Heath trying to win their first bi-district championship since 23. And really haven't seen much success since then. A lot of people thinking this would be the year for the Lady Hawks. They've had an incredible season so far. And they're not just going to lay down and go away. They've been pesky all season long. Of course, a notable game was the 3-0 deficit to Forney, in which if they had maybe 5 more minutes in that game, they probably would have tied it against the eventual district champions of 10-6A, who went undefeated throughout the season in district play. Of course, they don't announce the goals here at this stadium, so I apologize for not seeing who scored there. There was a lot of Lady Hawks in the box there. Here comes the Lady Pirates trying to get one back. It goes off of Wylie, so Lady Hawks will take the ball. Of course, a bit of a shocker over at Wilkerson. The 10-6A district champion Heath Hawks are trailing 3-1. And here come the Lady Hawks. They're trying to power back. And another tackle to no call. Fans are showing their appreciation of that one. Of course, it's going to get a little chippier the further we go into this one, as it already hasn't been chippy already. As we have entered below 19 minutes to go in the bi-district championship between Rockwall Heath and Wylie. Winner gets to play Waco Midway or Waxahachie. And that time, date, location will obviously be set after this one. I can confirm it will not happen at a McDonald's, as the old state adage goes. Both sides of the fan bases are getting a little anxious here. Of course, everybody knows what's at stake here, as somebody's season will come to a screeching halt after this one. There's a kick from the outside by Wylie, and that one goes just wide. I don't think Sarah touched it. She did not. So this will be a kick for the Lady Hawks. We have a substitution here. Good to see Jade back going out there. Of course, she was injured just a little bit ago. She goes out for Ava Chinchilla. Excuse me, no, that is Cassidy Swanner, the junior. So back we go. The Lady Hawks take over. Another Lady Hawk goes down, gets up fairly quickly in Bradley Shaw. Of course, the further you go into these 6A playoffs, the more physical it's going to get. So this is just kind of a taste of what's to come for both these teams when one does advance, as we will have a winner here tonight somehow, some way. Here comes a shot from the perimeter for the Lady Pirates, a push, and it's an air ball. A tie-up between a Lady Hawk and Lady Pirate down there. Of course, the opposite end of the field here, a shot from the Lady Pirates. And the Lady Hawks are able to get it out and get out of trouble. And they're going to try to turn it upfield. Good kick by the Lady Hawks. It goes off a Lady Pirate. So it stays with the Lady Hawks. It appears that the Lady Hawks have kind of found their swagger again, which is good news if you're a Lady Hawk fan. The Lady Pirates have yet to kind of literally let off the gas here. They've played a really good soccer match here tonight. Both these teams have. Of course, the Wylie Lady Pirates finishing third in District 9 6A. A great season for them. Getting a little anxious here with 15 minutes to go. The nerves might start setting in just a little bit as that clock is winding down. If someone scores a goal here comes another injury. And this looks like it's Avery again, and now we have another injury. Now we have Bradley Shaw going down. Two Lady Hawks are on the ground and in excruciating pain, it looks like. That one's going to be kicked out of play, and the whistle's going to go. It does look like Jensel is having a cramp as she's getting that leg rubbed out and chugging some water. Fairly humid for these girls. Of course, we mentioned the Lady Hawks have not played since early last week. Of course, spring break does kind of take a rhythm out. Of course, coaches do give the girls a couple days off, but obviously it's a little different than their normal Monday through Friday schedules during soccer season. Coaches aren't really a fan of the first round being during spring break for most schools across Texas. It was either last week or this week. Kind of just throws a wrench into plans, but here we are, the Bi-District Championship on a Friday during spring break. Of course, both these schools are on spring break right now. Ginsel's still down. She is definitely cramping pretty good. I will try to get her hydrated up with some pickle juice and some water. Here comes the pickle juice. We'll try to get her back on the pitch here fairly soon. Of course, the Lady Hawks have had several injuries here this evening. Lady Pirates put one in across, and it is not put in. It was a great put in by the Lady Pirates. They just couldn't convert with 14:35 remaining. Of course, as we mentioned, if it does end in a 1-1 tie, we go straight to sudden death overtime, which is 2 10-minute halves in the playoffs. And if that doesn't solve it, we go to sudden death PKs, which is where somebody's season will for sure end. Here's a kick in by the Lady Pirates, and Webb is there. And the stress is averted. Checking in on our other teams playing here tonight. Heath is over at Wilkerson Sanders. And that one is now 4-2 with 10 minutes to go in the second. The 10-6A district champions are on life support at this moment. And it looks like we are going to go to overtime in Rockwall. I'm sorry, in Garland between Rockwall and Saxe. So the Heath Hawks are in big trouble with 10 minutes to go. They are trailing by 2. Probably not what Phil Duhon drew up for his team here for the 10-6A district champions. Of course, going on a little bit of a skid toward the end of the season, already clinching the district championship about 2 weeks ago. That one goes off Wylie, and Piper not too happy with that one. Of course, one of the most stylish soccer coaches with his summertime hat on. I guess we call that a boat hat. There are just bodies flying everywhere down there in the Lady Pirate end of things down there, as it's getting more desperate for each of these teams as their seasons are on the line in the Bi-District Championship. 12:20 remaining. And a corner kick is going to be incoming here for the Lady Pirates. Kick is inside, off ahead, and there's a chance, and it's there. And Sarah Webb, kind of between her legs with the big-time save. And this one remains 1-1. Lady Hawks just clear that one out and get out of trouble. And the Lady Pirates kick it back in. Fans trying to get their Lady Hawks going here. Another kick. And to no avail of the fans, no call. Fans wanted a push in the back. They're not going to get it. Lady Hawks take control of the ball and kick it right back to the Lady Pirates. And now the Lady Hawks have it. They're going to kick it back into their own territory. Try to get something going here. There's going to be a call. There's a throwdown. That one is definitely going to be called. That was right in front of the referee, Briley Shaw, and she's going to get a yellow. She's going to get a yellow card right there, and she's not happy about it, as this one is starting to turn a little chippy. Looks like Gensel's coming back in replacement of her. So Briley will have to take a seat for a little bit. We're still talking here. Trying to figure out what's going on. The clock is going to stop. No, it's not. We're going to stop it to keep up. Of course, your clock says 10:39. We're going to wait about 10 seconds to start that clock up again. And another throwdown, this time by Wylie. And there was no yellow card for that one. So, not too happy. So here we go. No call on that one. Almost the exact same play going the other way, but no card. So here come the Lady Hawks. They're motivated. You can tell it's getting chippy. They've got it inside the 10. They're going to try to put one in. Everybody's trying to go for the header here. Couple of headers in a row. 4 headers. Lady Hawks find the ball in the 10. They're going to try to push it inside. They do, and it's kicked outside. Great pressure right there by the Lady Hawks. The ball comes right up here and rolls down the stairs. With 10 minutes to go, the Lady Hawks will get a throw in. It's going to be Laird. And Briley Shaw is going to get to come right back in. Coming out is going to be Jaylee Shepard. So here comes Laird. She's going to throw it in here from about the 10-yard line. She's looking straight at the goal. We'll see where she decides to put this ball here. She's also looking at Addison Dewey right in the face here. It could go right to her. Of course, she is a very tall girl. They're going to try to head one in. She goes right for her. It goes over her head. A little too high for her. Lady Hawks stop it on the 30 and turn it over. Here come the Lady Pirates. That one's turned back over to the Lady Hawks. Lady Hawks put it back in. They're going to try to deep ball here. The Lady Pirates are going to have to do something with it, and they do. They kick it out, and they don't. It goes off the Lady Hawks. So a free kick here for the Lady Pirates. 9 minutes to go. It's getting a little chippy again. As we have 8 minutes and 52 seconds to go. Of course, thank you for watching the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. Chris Curtis here, Lisa Tremel on the camera. We are right here on the visitor sideline in the stands. There's a header by the Lady Hawks. Briley's back in. She gets pushed down. And it's going to stay Lady Hawk ball. No foul called. Of course, we'll try to keep you posted, as we said, on the other games going on. Rockwall is in overtime with Saxe. And the Heath Hawks are in trouble. They are down 5-2. And with 8 minutes to go, you got to think that their season is going to come to a crashing halt, unfortunately. So great season by the Heath Hawks. Here come the Lady Hawks trying to put one in on the goalkeeper's hands. It fumbles around. And the goalkeeper's fired up as she kicks it away. So the 10-6A champs have 7 minutes to score 3 goals, or their season is over. Right here, it is 1-1 with 7:25 remaining. Of course, a Jade shout out there on the group chat. If you're watching over on YouTube, let us know where you're watching from, who you want to shout out. Of course, this one is getting a little chippy out there, as well as you would expect it to be in a bi-district championship when somebody's season is on the line. Here come the Lady Hawks pushing it out. And it has kind of turned in to the Briley Shaw show out there. She's had the possession of the ball a lot this half. She's been the focal point for this Lady Hawk team, trying to drag them to another goal here. Of course, the Lady Hawks trailed 1-0. And Briley Shaw is only a freshman. So she is trying to lead this team. She's taking it on her back. Briley Shaw once again. Lady Pirates kick it out of play. So Briley Shaw, just a freshman, but she has been incredibly noticeable out there. So you got to be excited to what you might see from her over the next 3 years. Of course, this is her first year as a Lady Hawk on the varsity squad, so getting a lot of experience. A lot of these girls are. There are a bunch of freshmen on this team. Eight freshmen on the 2025-2026 Lady Hawks soccer team. It's really impressive. Here comes a throw-in by the Lady Hawks. Another header. That's a big one by Gensel. And they're going to try to put one in off the head again, and nothing. The Lady Pirates clear it. The Lady Hawks are trying to keep it in play on their side of the field, but the Lady Pirates are able to push it to midfield. Little bicycle kick there. That looks like that was from Elena, I think. She's over there on the far home side of the field. So Elena is just a sophomore. So a lot of these girls making a name for themselves as freshmen and sophomores. Of course, that class of 28 looking very impressive for the Rockwall Heath Lady Hawks. Looks like we got about 6 minutes to go over at Wilkerson. As Heath is going to have to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Wylie over at Wilkerson to try to keep their season alive. Here, a different story. It's 1-1. 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go. You would think if someone scores a goal here in the next 4 minutes, that might do it. If they don't, though, we go to overtime. We play 2 10-minute halves, 20 minutes total. You could score as many goals as you want. It doesn't end if you score just one in the first 10. We will play 2, and they will switch sides on both. As that ball is kicked halfway up the stands on the home side. Of course, the home side middle row is all purple in favor of the Wylie Pirates. Main color is purple. 3:30 remaining in this game. Of course, this stadium is only for the Wylie Pirates. Of course, Wylie East has their own facility. Much like Heath does for their soccer teams. They, of course, play at the high school. And the only stadium they truly share is Wilkerson when it comes to football with Rockwall. There's this game with 3 minutes to go, getting a little tense as we enter the final 3. Lady Hawks will have a throw-in from the far corner all the way across the field down by their net. And here we go again. The Lady Hawks going to try to push it out, and they do. It's a race to the ball, and the keep is going to get to it first. They were trying to break Sydney Warner out there. Just couldn't get it quite to her. And the Lady Pirates push it back to midfield, but the Lady Hawks kick it right back over the 50, and away we go again. There is a lot of pushing out there. Lady Hawks find the way. More hands thrown. Great moves over there. That looks like that is Emily Daffrin. Some great footwork on the opposite end of the field. And a throw-in by the Wylie Lady Pirates, and it is out on the Lady Hawks with a header. And so with 1:55 remaining, Lady Pirates are going to try to make a push here. And that ball is kicked out of play into the home stands once again. This time right to a fan sitting right in the right spot. Was able to throw the ball right back over. And so with 1:35 remaining, it's still 1-1. Lady Hawks have looked a lot more alive here in the last 15 minutes. They've created some chaos. Of course, they got a goal off that chaos. And they're going to try with 1:20 here to potentially put one in. Of course, the Lady Hawks have lost Pearl for the game, so it appears. They've had some cramps and injuries here tonight. But they're hanging in. Wylie's going to try to make one push here if they can. There's a fast streak up the side of the field and a good kick out by, I cannot see the number from here. My age is showing with 50 seconds to go. That was a great play, though, by the Lady Hawks to prevent any dangerous activity there in front of the net, in front of Miss Webb. But here comes a corner kick. That one's a great kick right into the front of the net. Nobody's there. That's another kick, and the Lady Hawks are able to boot it out of there to the 20. The Lady Pirates are going to try to pop one, and Webb has it. Almost a fly ball from the 30. And Webb saw that one all the way. She's going to boot it, try to give the Lady Hawks one last chance here. And there's a header that's missed by the Lady Hawks. That could be trouble here with 20 seconds left. It's pushed inside, but the Lady Hawks clear it out. Cameraman has it on the side end. Lady Pirates are going to try to hurry with 10 seconds. And Lady Hawks will not let him get a, she gets a shot off. No, 0. It's over. A little bit of a dangerous situation there to no avail. So, you get free soccer here tonight. Overtime in Wylie. It is 1-1 as we check in on the other teams playing across the area here. The Hawks were trailing 5-2. And with 4 minutes to go, they trail 5-2. So it does appear that the Heath Hawks season will come to an end here tonight. And it does look like the Rockwall Yellow Jackets and Saxe Mustangs are going to go to a shootout in Saxe. No, I take that back. They are going to double overtime. And that game is 1-1. Rockwall was trailing that game 1-0, just like the Lady Hawks were trailing this game 1-0. But both teams have made a push to come back. So we have a coin toss here to decide what side of the field these teams want to play. And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll play 2 10-minute overtimes. Honestly, the wind is not going to be much of a factor anymore. It has pretty much completely died down. It was a factor in the first half, as Wylie was able to play with that wind for the first half. Kind of was able to die down in the second. There is still a little bit of a breeze, but nothing too chaotic here. It is absolutely perfect weather here in Wylie. Of course, as we mentioned, the Lady Hawks have lost Pearl for the game. They have had some cramps and injuries here tonight, but they have hung tough. Of course, they were out without their leading scorer for this game. No word on if she'll be available for the rest of the playoff run, if there is a playoff run after tonight. Of course, one of these teams' seasons does end here in potentially 20 minutes of gameplay. Shout out to everybody watching and tuning in from all across the country, all across the state. Let us know where you're watching from. I don't know if it's the Brianna Jeter tuning in, but if it is the Brianna Jeter tuning in, thanks for tuning in. Of course, a legendary Lady Hawk soccer player. We talked about her earlier in the day. One of the best throws ever in girls soccer. And this game is going to overtime. Of course, overtime is 2 10-minute halves. As I will get that up on the screen here for everybody to see. Of course, overtime rules, 2 10-minute halves. If the game is not decided, we go straight to PKs. Of course, all the Hawk fans have stayed in attendance, and they're ready to watch some overtime soccer here from Wylie. Maggie Younger in attendance, working on her March Madness bracket over there, probably. Bracket good? She's got a thumbs up. She gave us a thumbs up. Her bracket's still good. It's perfect. She's one of the 1%ers out there. So the teams will stay on the same field they ended with. Lady Hawks will be on my left side. Lady Pirates will be defending the right side over here. Of course, this is going to be a different situation than the regular season, as they go straight to PKs in the regular season. That is not the case in the playoffs. It is 2 10-minute halves. So away we go. I need to get my clock going here. That would probably help. The Wylie Pirates taking advantage of the first play off the kick in right there, and that one goes in. I think we're back online. Let us know. I think we're back online now. I think we are back. According to our end, we are back online. I do apologize for that. The Wi-Fi did go down, so we are back here. On the Rockwall IC Network, we did have a yellow card on Wylie as we were away with 4:46 remaining. Do apologize for that, everybody. Our Wi-Fi went down, but we're back. With 4:45 remaining, Wylie's going to get a kick. There were 2 yellow cards right there. We are back here. So the Lady Hawks are going to have to do some damage control. They are down 2-1 with 4 minutes to go in overtime number 1. There will be an overtime 2 no matter what. So not all is lost. Here come the Lady Hawks. They're on the attack. Kick on net, and that probably wasn't the best shot that Sydney Warner would want to have right there. She was trying to put that up so her teammate could get right to it, but it went right into the goalkeeper's logo on her chest, and so back we go. Lady Pirates put it back in play, and they dump it down. Lady Pirates have really been good on the edges here in overtime. They have really tried to go on some runs here. It looks like the Lady Hawks are slowly wearing down, but they're trying to put everything they can into this one. So we apologize for going down. Not much happened while you were gone. It got a little rough out there. 2 yellow cards were given out. Did not see who it was. So I was trying to get everybody back online here. So the Hawks did end up losing 5-2 tonight. The District 10 6A champions season has come to an end. A wonderful season by the Hawks. But it ends way too soon here for the Hawks. The Lady Hawks are in trouble as well. They are down 2-1. Here in overtime number 1. Of course, there is going to be an overtime number 2. Rockwall has taken a 2-1 lead over Saxe, the district champs of 9 6A. And there is 50 seconds to go in that game. So Rockwall is knocking on the doorstep to moving on to the area championship. Of course, here it is 2-1. With 2:40 to go. Of course, there will be an overtime number 2, so the season does not end at 2:30. But time is slowly becoming an enemy of the Lady Hawks. They will have a chance to regroup and see what's going on. Of course, they have lost Pearl for the game. They did not have their leading scorer for this game at all. And they have had a number of cramps in this game, but they're going to try, see what they can do. Trying to find a way to push them on to the area championship. Lady Hawks just kind of got that night, kicks it in and goes right off a player. And the Lady Pirates are right back at it. And the Yellow Jackets have won the Bi-District Championship. Congratulations to Tony Bowles and his crew, as they will live to play another day. So Rockwall High School moving on. Heath High School boys are done for the season. They lose 5-2. The Lady Hawks trail 2-1 Wylie's trying to pick up the double sweep. There's a throw in by Piper to his player. And that one goes up and out of play into the grassy knoll right behind me. So we've seen Riley Shaw a lot in this game, the freshman. She's kind of helped take the reins of some of this offense that has not played in this game here tonight for the Lady Hawks. Of course, Mumphrey, the leading scorer for the Lady Hawks with 19 goals this year. She did not play in this game. She is out with an injury. Lady Hawks push it in the middle. They're going to have a chance for a big-time shot from the 10. It kind of rolls. Another Lady Hawk is down. That is Shaw. Piper running to get the ball for his team. Try to salvage some time. 40 seconds remaining in overtime number 1. Here comes the throw-in. Laird's going to throw this one up and in. She puts it up off the head of Gensel and out of play. So the Lady Pirates will probably not rush this one. They will take their time and run this clock out of overtime number 1. And they will do exactly that, making sure the ball is on the right spot on the turf, just kind of moving it around. There's a method to the madness of this. They waste about 16 seconds there. They boot it with 5 to go. And that's out, and that'll do it for overtime number 1. So, we'll switch ends. And we will go to overtime number 2. Of course, the teams will switch ends. And the Lady Hawks will have 10 minutes with their season on the line to try to find 1 goal to tie this thing up. They will be now going the opposite way of us. A little harder to see from here. Of course, if everything falls into place here, we will only have 1 soccer game for you next week. The Rockwell Yellow Jackets are moving on. So we'll give you a time and date and location, how to watch that game. Of course, a lot of the baseball kids are here for Heath High School, of course, having their bye week this week. So we'll just have to see. The winner of this one will go on to play Midway or Waxahachie. Of course, that game will be more than likely on Tuesday. Of course, as you mentioned, the Lady Hawks have not won a bi-district championship since 2023. And really since then have not been able to get past this round. Of course, the Wylie School District has had a bunch of really good soccer teams over the past years, including Wylie East, who ended up winning a state championship. Of course, Rockwall took them out one year, then Wylie East did the same to them, en route to their state championship. So there's a lot of soccer talent here on the Wylie side of town, but the Lady Pirates are looking to make a statement here. Right now they have a 2-1 lead with 10 minutes to go. The Hawk fans are getting a little impatient, but they're going to now all move to the sideline. Student section is going to try to get these ladies going with 10 minutes to go and potentially their season. Trying to see who we got down there for the student section. Here come the Let's Go Hawks chants. If I were a betting man, I'd say Preston Lewis is down there leading the charge. And he is. Mr. Heath High School is roaring for the Lady Hawks. The Lady Hawks can feel it. They have 10 minutes to go to try to keep their season alive. Of course, thanks to everybody that's tuning in from wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in and watching. We have 10 minutes to go here in the Bi-District Championship. Lady Hawks steal the ball. They put one on net, and it goes right into the keeper's chest. She falls on it. And the Little Hawks have been just let loose, it looks like. There's about 15 to 20 little kids running around here, so it's not a tornado, I promise. Just have to wait and see what happens here. We're trying to protect the equipment at the same time, so everybody's trying to get the Hawks going here. There's a tackle on the sideline. Everything legal on that one. That was Gensel again going down. She has played her heart out here tonight for the Lady Hawks, the senior leader. And they're going to let them play here. Wylie kicks it back in. And Rockwall Heath puts it back out to midfield. 8:50 left. As Rockwall Heath is trying to keep their season alive. A push in the back. It is a call. No cards involved, just simply a change of possession. So here comes Rockwall Heath. They're going to have to throw everything at them if they can. You're going to see the most intense soccer of the Heath Hawks season right here. They have to have it. They have to have a goal in 8 minutes or their season will come to an end. Kick in by Wylie, and that one dribbles through. Wylie's going to have a fast break if they want it. Webb's going to have to get there. Wylie puts it in the net and scores. Sarah Webb came out just a little too far, and that fast break might have just sealed the season for the Lady Hawks. They're going to have to score 2 goals in 8 minutes and 3 seconds. And you wondered, with all the injuries that popped up here in the final week, for a team that has stayed relatively healthy all season long, it might have been too much. Gensel is not going to go down without a fight. She is sprinting to get that ball, as the Lady Hawks have 7 minutes and change to keep their season going here. Hot crowd going to try to rally the troops, see if they can get something here. They got to get one quick. And that one goes off a Lady Hawk, and Wylie will take over. Start to see the frustration here a little bit on the Lady Hawks' faces and the coaching staff. As the Lady Hawks have 7 minutes to find a goal and then another. They put one on the middle there. They got a chance. There's a little chaos, and it's cleared by the Lady Pirates. Give the Lady Pirates a lot of credit here tonight. They have played a extraordinary soccer game, and they're about to have a 3-on-1 break, as the Lady Hawks are having to push their way through. At a great play right there by the Lady Hawks defense. That was Addison Dewey. Great play to keep the season going. Whistle's blown. And we get a handball there. And that was called a handball, so it's going to go back to the Lady Pirates. And they are just going to waste some clock if they can. Six minutes and change to go in what could be the Lady Hawks' final game of the season here. Not what Lady Hawks had drawn up in their plans. Of course, they had inspirations on going on a big-time run here. But once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. And unfortunately right now, the Lady Pirates are in control. But here's a fast break. Couldn't find the lane. Gensel would have been wide open and wide alone if that had gotten through. And they are trying to push as much as they can up front, try to get something going. At this point, you got to start taking chances if you're the Lady Hawks. You'll give up a offensive run for the Lady Pirates for an offensive run your end. That's exactly what they're going to try to do here. 5:29 remaining. And the side of the visitors here has gone quiet. Of course, as we mentioned, 9 freshmen on this Lady Hawk squad. And they will be sophomores next year, and they will be something to deal with. But here come the Lady Pirates. Another shot. Gracie with a big-time save. Bounces off of her, but she's able to recover and hold on to that. Those 9 freshmen will be back next year, and they'll have something to prove. Of course, a lot of high expectations on this squad. But it's good for these young girls to learn the game, learn what it takes to win. And you got to turn it up a little bit more when it comes to the playoffs. 4:20 left as the Lady Hawks season is slipping away here. Here's a pass inside by the Lady Pirates. That looked like it was a handball, and they do call that. You got to give the refs credit here tonight. They have called a very good game. Been a physical game. They've pretty much let them play. Of course, most of them let them play in the playoffs. And let the best team win. Gensel puts one in there. She's telling everybody to get up. Everybody has to go. As now you just have to throw the kitchen sink at them. Keeper will hold on to it, pick it up, waste some clock. 3:39 left. Here's a kick to about midfield. Heath will pick it up, and I think they're going to push everybody here. They're going to try. Everyone's going up now. They're going to try to make something happen. A kick inside the net, and nothing. The goalie falls on it, lays on it, kills another 10 to 15 seconds there. There's a kick by the keep. And that one's dumped back into the Heath zone. They have nothing they can do but kick it out, or else that was going to be a 2-on-1. So unfortunately here, more time comes off the clock. And the Lady Hawks are down to 2:40 left in this incredible season. Of course, the Lady Hawks 18-2-2. They'll be a game short of 19 wins, so it appears. Of course, their only 2 district losses coming to the 10-6A champions, Forney. And the Lady Hawks are trying to go for some header. Here comes a fast break. Gensel's going to have it. No offsides is called. Gensel, and a huge save by the keep. And she goes down. She is fired up. That was a fast break. And Gensel is down. And if they had to put that in, there was a small chance they could have pushed for a comeback, but you got to feel like Gensel just gave everything she had as the senior leader of this squad. And you got to feel that the emotion probably is coming out now. A round of applause for the senior leader as she makes her way off. Probably for the last time as a Lady Hawk. No, she will stay out there. She does not have to go off the field. Or they are telling her she has to get off the field. Not too happy about that one. I'm sure they will find a way to put her back in for the final minute and 57 seconds here of this one. Or maybe not. Might not be enough time for that. So they tried to push there in the final 2 minutes. If they'd have scored that goal, you just never know. But now the Lady Pirates are going to try to kill some clock. They kick it out of bounds, and they kick it far. Lady Hawks find a way to get it back real quick. Here comes a quick throw in. Of course, thanks everybody for tuning in. Great numbers tonight. Thanks for watching Lady Hawk Soccer here on the Rockwell ISD Sports Network. I know we have a lot of Lady Hawk fans watching. It's probably not going to be the storybook that we all wanted. But regardless, a fantastic season for these Lady Hawks, for this team. They made a statement all year. 18-2-2. There's a push inside. Off the crossbar. It beat Sarah, but it didn't beat the crossbar. So with 1 minute to go in the Lady Hawks season, an incredible one, beyond a doubt, as they will be back with their 9 freshmen who will become sophomores, and the 7 sophomores that will become juniors, and a few juniors that will become the new leaders of this team. But you got to feel like the freshmen are going to take this team and push them to new heights next year, as that will be the goal in 2026, 2027. As this clock hits 30 seconds and the Lady Hawks season is coming to a close here at the hands of the Wylie Lady Pirates. As that will just about do it here in Wylie. The Wylie Lady Pirates score 2 goals in overtime. 1 in overtime 1 and 1 in overtime 2. And the season comes to a close. The Lady Hawks showing their emotion. The Wylie Lady Pirates celebrating their bi-district championship, a well-earned bi-district championship, as they will move on to play Waxahachie or Waco Midway sometime next week. And the Lady Hawks season will end once again here in the bi-district round. So they will re-rack and go at it again in 2027. Of course, we will be back sometime next week for soccer. The Rockwall Yellow Jackets are moving on. Fortunately, the Rockwall Heath Hawks fall 5-2 at the hands of Wylie, as the Lady Hawks are being given a standing ovation for one heck of a season. 18-3-2 is the official final record for the Lady Hawks. 3 losses in 6A soccer. That is not too shabby. So that's going to do it for us here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network, as the Lady Hawks are on the field hugging and sharing memories that they weren't expecting to share here tonight. So we will let you know when the Rockwall Yellow Jackets take center stage for the area championship next year. We will have that game for you, wherever that may be. And if you are a Heath Hawk fan, we will shift to softball and baseball for the broadcast to close out our 2025-2026 season. So thanks again for joining us here on the Rockwall ISD Sports Network. For Lisa Trammell, I'm Chris Curtis. Have a great evening, everybody. Once again, the final score: Wylie Lady Pirates 3, and your Rockwall Heath Hawks 1. Good night, everybody.